Howdy.
Hello.
Welcome. Okay, Will. So this is going to be awkward for everyone because your name's Will and my name's Will. But introduce yourself a little bit and why you're here.
Okay, so my name is William Hatch, and I'm part-time photographer, part-time game art student at the University of Worcester, and I'm here to talk about portraits and more specifically headshots.
Because today you are taking my portraits because I'm looking to get some headshots for my new site and things like that, which I'm sure you guys will be all aware of eventually. So how did you get into doing portraits specifically?
Well, I started off doing wildlife and animals, and this was an area which I found was good, but it wasn't personal, and I noticed that portraits seemed to be something which I was quite interested in. I like to do, to explore this area, so I seeked out people who wanted to, test out portraits, and that's pretty much how I got into it, so it kind of went from there.
I've seen some of your work, I truly love it, so I wanted to see if you could show the people 3 of your favourites, and then just talk about why you like them, what you did to get them, and what tips you can give people who are watching, who are interested in portrait photography, to achieve something like what you've achieved with those 3 favourite skills.
Okay, on the first one.
So this is a really interesting one. So me and Will both shot this model at the same time on the same day. We both have very similar shots. Actually, I think I'll throw up yours and I'll throw up mine. We'll put them together and we'll just let the people see that. But because we both shot this person, I shot it at the very start of. It was my first ever portrait shoot that I ever did, and it was great that I could do it with you and with someone that was familiar with being shot. Yeah. Because then it made things a bit easier for me. So how would you sort of recommend people out there who haven't shot anyone yet to try and get out to shooting people to start with?
It's really important to have an idea of a simple location. You don't want to run before you can walk, so the idea is choose a time which is popular, goal now, which is a very good idea. However, you need to understand roughly cameras and basically so you don't overexpose or underexpose your subjects. It's almost like shoot a friend, someone you know close, because you want to be able to, have that connection before you start thinking about talking to the model, because, you're going to know them, they're going to be able to, discuss back and forth ideas, and it's going to just feel a lot more natural in front of the camera and not stiff. The idea is to have a simple location, simple time, and with someone you know, and just take it. Just do what feels natural, because if you're trying to replicate someone who's already a really well-known photographer, you're gonna fall into that unappealing area where you're just copying. The story, the narrative behind your work comes first.
Because your styles usually come through just time. And people always think, oh, how can I get my photographs to look a certain way? But most of styles, especially like people who we know, like Peter McKinnon or Brendan Wolf, people who are well known, the reason they have very distinct styles now is because that's the style they particularly have been shooting with for so long that it's just become natural to them, and then everyone else sees it as their style. Whereas it's okay to look at someone else's work and be like, oh, how can I reach that goal? But you shouldn't claim it as your own if it's not your own.
And it's not the best way of starting, because you need to understand the principles behind portraits before you even experiment with anything, even colour. So it's probably best to start simple.
So let's move on to your second image.
So this is Rosie. This is my friend Rosie, and this is a portrait shoot we did not long ago. This is when it was we got a shallow light, but the evenings were earlier, so we managed to get out a lot earlier in the afternoon.
So when would you say this was? Like October, November?
No, it was January.
Oh, so it was this year?
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago at all.
No, it wasn't long ago.
Literally just like a few weeks ago.
Yeah, a few weeks ago. And the idea was we wanted to try this narrative, this storytelling.
I consider this shot to be quite cinematic because it's very narrow in you talk about the actual space where the image is being taken place. It's not like it's a very narrow sort of slice of the overall broader image, and I think it's really interesting. It sort of defines and narrows down onto just the very simplest bits of this model, so her face, her expression, and that's it. So that there's no, I don't want to sound crude or rubbish here, but there's no boobs. I'm trying not to be rude, but I'm trying to say, you know how...
It's a personal approach without being too personal.
Yeah, because you get a lot of people that, you know, there's a lot of reasons why people like photographs, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, there's some fantastic photographers out there and fantastic models. And it does help to also be attractive and have these attractive features. But sometimes it's really difficult, would you say, to not focus on these attractive features.
It's a storytelling in a very blank form.
It's not saying that it's not good to take photographs.
No, it's not.
Because there are, you know, there are reasons to do that. There are people that need to have those sort of photographs. You have clothing brands or like bikini shoots, things like that. And this is just female specific right now because you don't shoot a lot of men, do you, in general?
No.
So you can't talk about photographing men as an experience. But photographing women, I know that you prefer to stray away from the norm, as to speak. So from the sexy and the boudoir and the sort of risque sort of stuff. Photographer, clothing and location. I mean, some people think that clothing is the model's decision.
Yeah.
And I think that can be true, especially if you're just starting out, because you're not going to know a lot.
No.
But as a photographer, pretty much everything that you photograph is up to you. So what clothes you think should be used, location, lighting, it's all up to you.
If you're beginning, it's not too important. You're trying to get the basics, and when you start to consider narratives, it's important to consider all these elements together.
Alright, anyway, that's enough of that. So last final image.
Yeah, so the final image.
Let's have a look at this final image of yours. This is a very, I like this one a lot when you first showed it. I really did enjoy it. So this is outside in a sort of natural environment, I believe down the side of the river in Worcester, isn't it?
Yeah, this is by the side, yeah.
And the model's been quite brave to just lie on her back on the grass.
Yeah, this is where we come into trust. And it's one of those things where if you're with a friend, they're going to be like, they might be confused, but it's about trusting that the image will come out right. And
I think trust is a really interesting aspect, so I want to focus on that a little bit more. So if you take a photograph of someone and they don't like it, they have to trust you enough that you're not going to go and share that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in the flip side to that, you know, if models trust you to get a good photograph, then they're often just going to listen to you and do what you ask to do, even if they don't understand it until they see it.
No, it's about, it's the trust between your ideas and you sometimes you as a person. And it's one of the things where if you're going to do something daring, something which is a bit out there, you gotta make sure that you do trust them. I mean, you can't. If some models will come and they'll not want certain things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And you should be able to work around that. And that's when you're starting to earn money from it. That's something you need to consider, because the idea is they are in the frame as such, so they will be seen. Not your work is conveyed for them.
You've brought quite a few tools over, mostly lighting equipment. So, what lighting equipment have we got today? We got two light stands. Was it three light stands?
We got two light stands. Two light stands.
And a reflector.
Yeah.
And that should be enough for what we're doing.
Yeah, we're not doing anything which is 3-point lighting or anything like that. We're just very simple headshots, so we just need clean lighting on the face.
Yeah.
Hopefully no shadows, clean backdrop, and that's the good stuff. I
just want to get across though, but if you guys don't have all these tools, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
No.
The best light you can get is natural light, as I think Will's images do showcase. I mean, for example, we're sat now in the middle of my parents' lounge. I'm just going to take Will over to the corner where the light's coming from, and I'm going to quickly show you that. Alright, Will, so I'm going to have you come over to this window. I'm going to turn down the ISO because it's way too high at the moment.
Yeah.
Let's bring it down to like, I don't know, 320.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's get you by the window. So this is just the back garden, and this is just Will's face. Do you want to get close to the window for me? So you can really see how much you can do just with a window in your own home. So, you know, if you don't think that you can do photographs, you're probably wrong. You probably can. Alright, Will, so this is where we're doing our shoot today. This is my beautiful garage. People should have already seen some of this. So what have you got here, Will?
These are the lights we
These
were
are
talking about.
two standard softbox lighting, quite high-powered bulbs.
Yeah.
You set them up on stands. They obviously cast very strong light, so what you have to do is you have to put it back a tad. So obviously you're not overexposing it. However, they're very, very good for indoor work because when you do indoor work, you really understand that the light is really, really dark. You have a light here, and you have a light here, because obviously the lights bouncing on each other.
Yeah, we've got one window here.
Yeah.
That's about it.
But the window over there won't produce light because outside it's really cloudy.
It's pretty terrible, not gonna lie.
Okay, so we're about to start, right?
Yeah.
So what settings are you going to use for in here, do you think? Are you going to do a test shot to find out now?
I'll do a test shot, but usually it's best to get between 100 and 200 ISO.
I'd come down here if I were you. Yeah?
So it's usually best to go between 100 and 200 ISO for really sharp, clean images, especially if you're just, headshots, you're really quite close up.
What lens are you using?
I'm using 50mm f1.2.
Same one I'm using for this, because it's the only one I have.
It's a cheap lens. It's really good. It's you use it for
It is good,
portraits,
isn't it?
and
It's really good.
It's really good for its price.
F1.8, it shoots. It's extremely sharp for like a 50mm,
Yeah.
50-50. I mean, if you want to get a lens as your first lens and you don't want to spend a lot,
Yeah, it's just perfect.
get that. And it's the Canon version we're talking.
Yeah, we're talking about a Canon version.
All right, let's get started. All right. So what should I do? Glasses on, glasses off first.
We'll start with glasses on.
Okay.
It's usually quite hard to get right.
Okay. And how should I sit? Because so we're going to start with what, like a normal sort of just
Normal
neutral.
standard pose, which is trying to get try and work out the light. So it's a
Okay.
case of just
So just sit still and see what works best.
yeah, see what
Alright.
works better. So
Okay, so show us what you're doing from your perspective, Will.
okay,
I'm
so
sorry about the things on the floor, but that's
okay,
alright.
so for example, when you hold your camera, you want to keep it either eye level
Yeah.
or slightly above. Now this makes a more pleasing angle, so there's not much forehead because not many people like that. Also a case of you're trying to figure out the angle, trying to almost keep them in the same position, but almost trying to find where the light is strongest. Now, if you move slightly too much, you can get a different angle, which isn't the best thing to do. For example, when Will was posing he was tilted to the side. I moved slightly to the left so that the light on his ear was a lot in the frame instead of just quite flat, because otherwise it sticks out and looks a bit bizarre. And so he's trying to look for the angles which are best, but sometimes it's best to experiment because you never know what you're going to get.
Right. So whilst he's gone, I'll face this way so it's easier for you. So whilst he's gone, I'm going to tell you this. So he's a great guy, and this has been quite a fun experience. And I think that if you aren't following him already, you probably should.
Hello, Will. I was saying nothing about you at all.
I could hear you.
No, what did I say?
Nothing inappropriate. It's good.
I feel like he's ruined it for himself now.
Haven't you, Will?
Yeah.
What a shame. What a shame.
Do you think, because I've heard this before, do you think that there is a side? Everyone has a side to their face.
It's more of an objective thing. A lot of people think they have a side because it looks proportional, if that makes sense. For example, if you look there, it might make the nose a bit more protruding, whereas it might look there, might look a bit flatter.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's the lighting which affects how the face looks in terms of the picture. So because everyone's mostly equal on both sides, most things, but you do
like a
notice
lazy eyelid.
it's actually depending on your hair. Your
Oh,
hair,
that's
so your
what-
hairline affects if the image looks like a bit more stylish or a
So
bit
mine
more
goes that way.
Yeah, so
So
yours
would it
goes
say
up, so most sides will look similar.
So it's better to be this side then, so the hair goes that way. Or
Yeah.
is it best to go?
The direction out of the frame. So
Okay.
looking that side.
There we go. Right. So I'm terribly sorry about the battery dying. I have only got one battery for this 1DX at the moment. Hopefully I'll get another one soon. But by the by, I wanted to show you what we came out of that entire session with. Well, not all of them, of course, but the two that I particularly like the most. Right. So this are these ones. So this one you sadly didn't see anything about. So in this photograph, can I go to edit tab? I can indeed. So in this photograph, right, we are standing up against the wall. I think that Will has taken out the brick pan in the background here, which is good because that would be quite distracting. However, you can see that there's a lot of reflection here, and there's, you know, obviously there's light coming in here, which is pretty standard. That was the light on the camera left, which you saw in the video. So I wanted to quickly explain what this light here is, and it's not what you might think. It's not actually the second light on camera right, because the second light on camera right is actually shooting that way. It's shooting against the corner of the garage to cause sort of like an ambient glow in the background. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm holding up the huge reflector, which you might be able to see in the video's thumbnail if you paid attention. We held up the silver side to my face. Now you might be able to tell this if you're really smart because of these muscles that are tense here, because my arm is what's holding it up. And that is actually causing a really nice glow to sort of bounce here, bounce onto the side and just off to my ear. And that really rounds out and brings out the shape of my jaw in particular, but it would pretty much bring out the shape of anyone's jaw, especially a man's jaw, because sometimes with portraits you want to sort of emphasize that manly masculinity sort of muscly look, and you can do that with highlights on things like the bone structures in their face. I have got a bit of a greasy nose. I'll sort that out one day, I'm sure. And then obviously you can see the highlights in the glasses, which just bring the entire thing together. All right, now onto the next photograph. This one, when it eventually loads. There you go. This one was voted by the people I showed as their favorites, and I think I know why. So in this photograph, it's a bit more characteristic. There's a bit of emotion going on. I'm staring at the camera instead of staring off the camera. And again, we've got the same sort of things going on. I'm holding a reflector here, just off here. It's bouncing light this way into the side of my face. I've moved my arm backwards behind my head to give a bit of shape, and obviously it's out of focus, it's depth of field, which really sort of brings you to the eyes. Again, there's a highlight going on there, and there's some more highlights going on there. And overall, it's a good image. The only thing that I would retouch about it perhaps is maybe brightening up the hair to give it a bit more contrast, because at the moment it's not very bright, and I've got quite bright red hair. Video. Sorry about that, I'm just really thirsty. I wanted to use this video as even though it's quite long, it's about 20 minutes now I imagine, to give those of you out there who are maybe not the best of knowledge about portrait photography or photography in general, the sort of perception of what is actually possible on a low budget. It's really important, I think, that as photographers or even videographers, but mostly for this video photographers, try to get away from that gear mentality. It's something that I've definitely fallen for in the past, and I think anyone can vouch for me on that. But you want to get away from gear and move into doing something. And it's kind of the theme of my entire video series so far. It's just get out there and do stuff. So hopefully you can learn something from this video, pass it on to your friends, share it if you want, if people have a spare 20 odd minutes to listen to my annoying voice. But hopefully you'll see these photographs up online soon. I'd like to thank William Hatch again for taking these photographs. I shall link his Instagrams and his stuff down in the description, as well as hopefully somewhere during this video. And yeah, hopefully you'll see my beautiful mug on
the banner sometime soon. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time. And, you know, I just want to say one more thing as well, you know. There are probably some things in this video that you don't agree with, or you think that it should have been done differently, or you would have done differently yourself. And I agree, there are some things that I would have done differently. But, as you can clearly see, Will got the results that I was looking for. So please don't write anything mean in the comments saying that, oh, I would do something different, blah, 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 because I don't care, and it won't change the fact that it was done how it was done, and I like what I got. And maybe that's just the case. Alright.
A few weeks ago. And